Welcome all you Wisconsin citizens and friends all across the state, and we might even have a few across the nation. We have one of our special guests is across the nation, and I'm eager to introduce my special guest. But I do want to welcome everyone on this fabulous Earth Day. You know, Wisconsinites, we are proud to be the home state of Senator Gaylord Nelson, who we all are so grateful for launching the very first Earth Day in 1970. Look at the difference that he has made. Look at the accomplishments we have done as a country and here in Wisconsin. And by golly, we're not going to let Governor Scott Walker roll us back here. And that's one of the big reasons I'm running for governor. And I'm very proud to stand with Wisconsin citizens all across the state and saying we want to protect our clean air and water and our lakes and our land. I am, as so many of our listeners know, I began my career, working career, over 35 years ago, working for what was then a brand new group called Wisconsin's Environmental Decade. And we named ourselves that, I'm told, because we thought it would just take a decade to clean up the planet. It shows you our mistake back then, but we haven't stopped. And I have been so honored in this campaign for governor to have earned the support of both of the fabulous organizations that have made endorsements here. They are two just tremendously important organizations in our country and here in Wisconsin. And I am very proud to introduce the first guest here, who is the head of what was then Wisconsin's Environmental Decade and is now called Clean Wisconsin. Mark Redsten is the executive director. Thank you, Mark, for your Clean Wisconsin Action Fund endorsement. And I would love you to introduce yourself here to our listeners.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. It is really my great pleasure to be part of this virtual town hall with you today on Earth Day. Not only was our organization founded on Earth Day 42 years ago, but today, in this year more than ever, it's important to tell everybody online today how important it is and what is at stake here for the environment in this election. I'm really humbled to be part of this event and proud to endorse you, Kathleen, for governor. I've had the privilege of knowing you, Kathleen, for the last 12 years. I've known you through my work as a board member of Clean Wisconsin Action Fund and as the executive director of Clean Wisconsin, one of the state's largest environmental advocacy organizations now. I know that Kathleen is an amazing leader. She understands what needs to happen to make Wisconsin a cleaner and better place, and she won't rest until she accomplishes her goals. She's tenacious for sure, and an extremely hard worker. But she's also principled, and she's a very loyal friend. So Kathleen has had this long history that she referred to as an environmental advocate starting as a young girl. And in addition to leading Dane County, I'm proud that she used to work here. I brag about it all the time, actually. And she actually was one of the co-directors of this organization in the early 1980s. I've watched you assemble a fantastic campaign staff this year, Kathleen, and a big tent of supporters from the many unions to Emily's List, Voces de la Frontera, and environmental groups like Clean Wisconsin Action Fund and the Sierra Club. It's going to take this big tent to win on June 5th. Mahatma Gandhi said, "An ideal is one thing, living up to it is quite another," and that we may be said to have an ideal only when we put forth an effort to realize it. He said that strength does not come from a physical capacity, but from an indomitable will. Well, Kathleen, you have made a huge mark on my organization, but more importantly, on our state and the environment we love. You're a strong woman, you're a strong leader, and you have made your ideals your life's work, and for that we're extremely lucky. So again, we're really proud here at Clean Wisconsin Action Fund to endorse you for governor of our state.
Thank you, Mark. I am very honored by and humbled by your kind words, and I'm eager to get to our chat room where our listeners and citizens are eager to talk with both of us. But we are also joined by another fabulous national leader. I couldn't be more thrilled than to have earned the support and the endorsement here of Wisconsin's Sierra Club. They are an awesome organization that's only been doing this for many, many decades, tirelessly and successfully. They are working hard on the ground year round always. But we are very grateful that the relatively new but long-time conservation environmental leader, new head of the National Sierra Club, is here with us this afternoon. Mike, I could not be more proud to have you leading with Mark this town hall meeting. Mike Brune is the executive director of the National Sierra Club. As I have looked at your life, Mike, I am reminded of one of the most powerful lessons I think we all share as conservation and environmentalists, is that we learn our values when we are very young. And I couldn't help but chuckle over some of the stories I've read about how you became active and what motivated you. And instead of me telling your stories, I think you will be better at doing it and why you do this work. And again, how proud I am that you are leading with Mark this town hall meeting, and so grateful and humbled for the support of the Sierra Club. Welcome, Mike.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. It's a joy to be on this call with you and with Mark as well. And not only am I very excited to be here helping out your candidacy, but the whole Sierra Club is very enthusiastic about what you would bring to the state of Wisconsin and the voice that you would bring to an important fight that has repercussions across the country. Wisconsin holds a very special place in the hearts of the Sierra Club. It's, of course, where our founder, John Muir, was born years ago. We now have 2 board members who reside from the state of Wisconsin, Jonathan Ela, who has been a longtime leader in Wisconsin, and newly elected Spencer Black, who will take office next month, who is a former Wisconsin state representative. We also are following in the footsteps, as you mentioned, of the great former Senator Gaylord Nelson, his daughter Tia Nelson, and of course Aldo Leopold is also from the state. We're getting involved in this election for a variety of reasons. I would say it starts with the fact that Wisconsin is the birthplace for some of the more pervasive, common sense solutions to important environmental problems. The state of Wisconsin was the first to enact acid rain legislation, which has taken hold across the country. Wisconsin is also one of the leaders in developing smart policies to promote the protection of wetlands across the country. And Wisconsin's also leading in recycling laws. What happens in Wisconsin often doesn't stay within Wisconsin. That's both good news and bad news, because what Governor Walker has done over the last few years is not just put the successes and the victories that have been hard-earned and hard-won in your state at risk, but it's putting at risk most of the environmental victories that we've had across the country. This is why we're seeing multi-billionaires like the Koch brothers put so much money into the campaign. It's why we're seeing oil companies and gas companies and coal companies and their executives throw so much money into races across the country. Because what's happening right now is there is a battle for what the future of our country might look like. And those of us who are fighting for clean air and fighting for clean water, who want a stable climate for our kids, who want to protect our forests and protect our wetlands, there's a risk that our voices will be drowned out by multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporations who may not have people power, but they do have dollars that are being thrown into this race. So this particular race and your candidacy, Kathleen, is a top priority for the entire organization of the Sierra Club. We've got 1.4 million members across the country, and we can think of no better thing to do, no important race for us this spring than to make sure that you win, that you become governor in early June. A couple last things that I want to say is that we particularly applaud your leadership. When we looked at your candidacy and when we did our endorsement review, we were very impressed by the fact that you have been fighting hard for clean air and clean water for several decades. We know that in looking at your candidacy that you share our values, but we're also really impressed with how you can put together, as Mark mentioned, a broad coalition of organizations, labor organizations, families, You can bring community justice organizations, social and economic justice organizations, environmental organizations, all together aligned around a common value of what it will take to make your state stronger and what it will take to show good leadership that others can follow across the country. So Mark used a quote from Gandhi. I think I'll throw in one as well. Gandhi once said that the difference between what we do and what we're capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. And I bet that if you're governor, Kathleen, we can do a great deal to help close that gap. So thanks for having me on the call.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mark. We're going to be welcoming in the chat and the conversation and the questions and the comments from citizens all around. Please go on our Facebook chat and join us. Questions and comments that are already starting coming in, and I'll kick off here with the first one and open it up to both of you as well. But for the first email question that came in was, Governor Walker seems to think that the only way you create jobs is by gutting the environmental laws and regulations. And boy, I've got some strong feelings about that I'll share here, and I'm going to welcome you to as well. But he never campaigned on an agenda of rolling back our environmental laws. And I know he didn't campaign on that agenda because it isn't what Wisconsin wants. In my growing up here and for 60 years, growing up in Milwaukee and Waukesha area, and I grew up in very rural Waukesha County where when I was 8 years old, and I'm sorry to date myself, but that was 1959, I started a conservation club, which was a really unusual thing for 8-year-olds to do back in 1959. But that's how I got my start, and it's no wonder I then was an environmental lawyer for 20 years before being county executive. But, I think about what I've learned over my years, and I think in Wisconsin we really have these shared values of wanting clean air and water and education for our kids and health care and a good paying job. And so they all go together. Jobs and the environment go together. And we know that. I know Mike and Mark sure know that, and all your members know that, because we've been pushing that joint agenda. It makes no sense for all of us in Wisconsin to spend $12 billion buying energy outside our state when we can do more to produce green energy here and at home. And I've done a lot of that work in building a manure digester that is not only keeping our lakes cleaner by taking the phosphorus out, but producing green energy that one digester fuels 2,000 homes. This is what we can do, and we've got a Northwoods that still is the largest wood pulp producing state in the nation, where we can use that for converting to wood pellets and green energy of the future. So it's such an exciting future that we have here in Wisconsin that is so different from the vision that Governor Walker's had in rolling back our laws and slamming the door on the wind industry and all those things where the jobs and the environment go hand in hand together. And I know both of you care about this and would love you to respond.
Yeah, Kathleen, this has been an important part of the work that we do here at Clean Wisconsin, is to make sure that our elected officials understand how important renewable energy and energy efficiency are to the future of our state. We, along with the Sierra Club, helped organize hundreds of businesses to help them make their point that this is the direction that they want to go in Wisconsin clean energy future. Wisconsin saw under Walker 5 wind energy companies leave our state because of the policies that he enacted. So not only are we watching jobs leave our state on renewable energy, but we're not doing the things that we need to do that our businesses are asking us to do to promote more energy here, clean energy here in Wisconsin.
Well, and Mike, before you respond, I want to give you a lot of credit, because the Sierra Club here spent years making sure that some really old coal plants, especially in Madison, were taken offline, and then with biofuels and bioenergy plants being proposed and on the drawing boards to get built, and Governor Walker stopped that the moment he got into office. And I just want to thank Sierra Club for all your years' worth of efforts to get us to that point.
Well, thank you, Kathleen. Most of this work that's been done has been led and inspired by Wisconsin residents and volunteers. These are people who have full-time jobs. They've got kids or grandkids, many of them, but somehow, some way in their every day or every week, they're donating hours upon hours of their time to make sure that the air that they breathe is a little cleaner, their water is a little cleaner, and the economic opportunities are expanding in the state rather than restricting. And so this really is a great opportunity. In the next 2 months, people in Wisconsin have an excellent choice. They can either they can look at the record of Governor Walker and see how he shut the door on the wind industry, how he rejected $800 million in federal financing for high-speed rail, and they can say, that's the way I want to go. I want to make sure that we don't invest in the clean energy technologies in the future. Or people can vote for you, and they have an opportunity to invest in a candidacy that will simultaneously make the environment cleaner, our climate stronger and more resilient, and then simultaneously make our economy grow through investments in clean energy. You know, most folks, when they think about climate change, they look at it as an obligation, something that we have to fight to make sure that our kids have a chance at a healthy future. And that's half true. The other part of the equation is that climate change also offers an opportunity. For every coal-fired power plant in the state that's coming offline, that means new clean energy investments can take hold. We can redouble our commitment to clean energy and install clean energy manufacturing facilities throughout the state and simultaneously stabilize our climate, clean our air, clean our water, and put people back to work. But it's not going to happen unless we have leadership in the governor's house. So that's why I'm very grateful that you threw your hat in the ring, Kathleen, and I'm also grateful for all the Sierra Club volunteers who will engage in the campaign over the next 2 months.
Well, Earth Day is a day where you kind of you think back, you reflect on how far we've come and how far we have to go. And when I reflect back, as Mark was describing, and when I started out as the lawyer for Wisconsin's Environmental Decade, now Clean Wisconsin, I was fresh out of law school, and Mark you guys don't make a lot of money now. You do this because you are so public-minded. Then I was making $35 a week, arguing cases in the state Supreme Court, 3 months out of law school. And to show you how far we've come, I remember when the Supreme Court justices were asking me in an oral argument where we were taking on the utilities and trying to get utility rates to require conservation measures and so that we wouldn't be building so many nuclear or coal plants. And I remember the justices saying, well, Kathleen Falk, why do we need to look at the long-term impacts of these decisions? And when I think of how far we've come in 40 years now from then, it's a good thing. But then I think about how far we have to go, that inherent in the word conservationist is the word conserve. And it's something that not only makes fiscal sense and environmental sense, but it's just so much easier to do. When I was the 14 years I was county executive, we made sure we had green building policies so that when we built, we used green products, and we recycled the materials. When we built the new courthouse, we recycled the great majority of the older materials and put that to good use instead of putting them in the landfill. And when we built the brand new nursing home, we have a geothermal heating system for it. That's not common and normal, but it ought to be. And so just that simple notion of conserving and being careful with our resources is the right thing to do for our pocketbooks, and it's sure the right thing to do for the environment. The calls continue and the emails keep coming in. I know we've just got one from Shella from Madison about what are we going to do to restore focus on energy funds and make sure we have renewable energy. And Mark, you've been working on that for a long time. You want to speak to that?
Well, Shala is right that there's an opportunity to restore focus on energy funds. When Governor Walker signed his budget bill, the same budget bill that eliminated collective bargaining for unions, he also eliminated an increase in focus on energy funding that we're trying to restore. We've been working together with the Sierra Club very closely and with a whole group of clean energy businesses and trying hard to have the governor hear how important this additional funding will be for our future here in Wisconsin. But with Kathleen,
that's something you understand. It would be something. I would love to have the chance to talk to you about this, Kathleen, about how we can make this as effective as possible, instead of trying to convince so many people to get him to get our governor to not do the right thing.
Right. Well, we've just, I know, been through a couple of wars over the last few months in trying to push back on Governor Walker and his allies in the legislature that have rolled back our wetlands law that has served our state so well. And again, it not only protects our natural resources, but it keeps our basements from flooding. And then they went after our drinking water. You wouldn't think that in this day and age where waterborne diseases, take lives. They did in Milwaukee not too many years ago with Cryptosporidium, that we would have a governor and a legislature that would weaken our drinking water standards, and that's what they did. But here we've got the more calls and emails. We've got people's interest. They're fired up on Earth Day out there. And this one here is, how are we going to do jobs and the environment together? And my plan here for jobs includes a variety of neat options that only Wisconsin is posed to do because we've got these special things here. We live on the home of the Great Lakes. We are home to the largest freshwater body on the planet with the Great Lakes here. And we are proud of that. And we've got some of the best scientists in the world that are studying water pollution and desalination, measures that what place in the world doesn't need. And I was just at the new Center for Freshwater Sciences that's being built as we speak on Lake Michigan. We've got these great scientists, and Dean Garman there told me that their students are gobbled up by places all across the country because of the wealth of information and science they know that every place needs. Well, in addition to investing in the university system, so we have the best scientists and make a cleaner water future, we ought to be the manufacturing state that manufactures all that equipment. Those machines and technology that helps desalinize water and is the water pollution technology for the world. Just think of that picture here of getting all people in Wisconsin back to work in some of those vacated warehouses in Milwaukee or Janesville or Wausau or Eau Claire. That's a really exciting future that not many states can lay claim to. In addition to the wood pulp industry that I was talking about before and the biofuels that can engender. We also have right here in Madison at the university campus there, the scientists got about $100 million grant about 5 years ago, one of the largest ever in the country, to do biofuels and bioenergy research. And not only is that exciting, but just think of the manufacturing jobs that can follow from that if we have a governor who will roll up her sleeves and connect us to those markets. And instead of a governor who's traveling the country all right, but he's just traveling the country to raise campaign funds to save his own job.
Kathleen, the jobs versus the environment discussion, that's a false dichotomy. We all know that online here. You mentioned what's going on in Milwaukee and with the School of Freshwater Sciences and the business community, once again, behind having clean water, using Milwaukee as the fresh water of Milwaukee as an economic driver for the state and for the region, for the world. And we also know with pollution from phosphorus, for example, that hundreds of millions of dollars in lost property values because of polluted water. And we see the economic resurgence that happens in these communities where we clean up the watersheds. So a clean environment is a bedrock. It's the bedrock of a healthy economy.
Well,
let me just add a couple quick thoughts, which is to say that it takes a couple things in order to simultaneously increase jobs and protect the environment. You have to have a few things. One is you need strong leadership, right? So you need someone who has strong values, who actually cares about putting people to work in ways that protect the environment rather than degrade it. And so that's why we're so excited about your candidacy. The second thing that you need is you have to have someone who can put together a broad, bipartisan, and resilient coalition of individuals and communities. And this is also why we're really excited about you becoming governor, hopefully, in the next couple of months, in that you've already proven an ability, unlike Governor Walker, to bring people together aligned around a common value, aligned around a vision for what the state of Wisconsin could look like in a few years. But then the third thing that you need is you need people on the ground. You need a grassroots movement of people to be there with you. And so that's why the Sierra Club and so many organizations have already offered their endorsement, because we know that we have to go to work over the next couple weeks to make sure that you win in the primary, and we have to work even harder over the month after that to make sure that you prevail in early June. And then once you do, that's when our work actually starts. That's when we have the chance to make the difference in the state of Wisconsin. So I was really excited to do this call today with you on Earth Day, because I think that the leadership that you're already providing, that you would provide in the governor's seat, would be an inspiration to all of us across the country who know deep in our hearts that if our country is going to be competitive in the 21st century, if our economy is going to be strong, it's going to be through big, robust investments in clean energy and in other businesses that help to restore rather than degrade the planet. So we are pulling for you in June. We're going to fight for you in June, and we're encouraging all of our members in the state to get involved in your campaign.
Well, thank you. And both of you are great examples of leaders who always reach out to bring the big tent together to solve problems. And, you know, we have done that here in Dane County when I was elected county executive 15 years ago. And there were big disputes, appropriately so, about how we were going to grow and develop, because we were growing by 60,000 new people a decade. And with 2,500 farms and a whole lot of lakes and streams at stake, where that development would happen would have profound implications for the quality of life of our waters and our land. And so I thought, you know, the people elected me to get this vision of protecting these resources. And so I did it by calling the heads of some businesses and saying, you know, we've got a lot in common here. We all want to preserve this quality of life. Will you give me a chance and work with me? And to their credit, they said yes. And so we did these incredible things together for 14 years by working together. You know, we passed a referendum that had us buying 10,000 acres of land for permanent protection as parks and open space. We got that done, and we bought those 10,000 acres over a 10-year period. And then we worked together to have some of the first or best or onlys of many environmental measures by working collaboratively together. And I'm very proud of that legacy, and why I know it's doable, because we've done it. And why there was so unnecessary for the state to throw out over the years entities like the Public Intervenor Office, or to take away the citizen board that led the Department of Natural Resources. And we've gotten some callers, some emails, one from Leo from Milwaukee, saying, how are we going to restore that Public Intervenor Office, and how are we going to get back to having an independent Department of Natural Resources so that our resources aren't politicized. And I'm eager to be a governor that restores us and gets back to what Governor Knowles, a Republican governor, but who very much supported an independent DNR that wouldn't get caught in politics. And we've seen under Governor Walker a DNR that's caught in politics. More calls coming in. Well, this one I really like too. Bruce and Liz are calling in saying, what can we do to help you win? I'm going to leave that to Mike and Mark here.
Well, thank you, Bruce and Liz, for your question. What you can do is speaking to Sierra Club members and activists and volunteers, is you can do what you've always done to win elections and to win campaigns, and do it extra hard. So we need volunteers to get involved in the campaign today and over the next couple weeks to make sure that Kathleen wins in the primary on May 8th. We need you to knock on doors. We need you to make phone calls. We need you to talk to your friends and your neighbors. Get onto your social networks and talk about what's at stake and the choice that we have on May 8th and then in the general election in early June. This is our opportunity to have someone who we know not only cares the same way that we do about the issues that matter, but has a proven track record. We're bringing someone on who has a vision and a body of work that she can point to, that we can feel really confident that would make our air and water clean and our lands and our forests protected. So If you're a Sierra Club member, if you're an activist who wants to get involved and make a difference over the next couple months, there's an excellent opportunity by electing Kathleen Falk to be the governor of Wisconsin. So we urge you to get involved today. Join up today, please.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very close election, and absolutely every vote will matter. So, telling everybody how important having Kathleen Falk as our governor will be, and how that will really change the direction of our state. And we can start seeing some of the things that we care about for our environment going back in the right direction. But making sure everybody knows that Kathleen has what it takes to win.
Well, thank you both so very much, and all of our listeners and chatters for joining us. We've got a primary election in 16 days and a general election 28 days after that. So time is of the essence. I'm so honored and humbled by the endorsement of Clean Wisconsin Action Fund and Sierra Club. I've worked my whole life. I can promise you I will work even harder for the next 40 years of my life. John Muir said that everything is tied to everything. And I think he was right. And these ripple effects that each one of us can do over the next 16 days and the next 44 days are what will produce an incredibly different future for Wisconsin. And I am humbled and honored by your support. And we've got to get our state back on track with these shared Wisconsin values that I know citizens agree with you both on. So thank you so much for joining us. This conversation's going offline now, but keep the emails coming and the chat coming in the chat room if you'd like. And I hope everybody has a great remainder of their Earth Day. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Happy Earth Day.